Hey there gardeners, Chris here from Steading. I wanted to give you a quick rundown of what I'm trying with this garden bed as far as saving a bit of money on soil, in a way, probably not, but also hopefully building this garden bed up to be a little bit more future-proof to address some of the issues I've had in my other garden beds. As you can probably see here, we've got some pretty nice soil. We've got the mulch on this half of the bed behind me, and it is all ready to go. I had a bit of a microphone issue that destroyed my first go at explaining this to you as I did it step by step, but I'll basically give you the rundown and we'll see if we can salvage any of that. Essentially speaking, the garden bed has been dug in a little bit into the ground, and then I've put cardboard down with a little bit of coconut core on top of that. Now, the cardboard itself does help if you've got it bent up the edges of the garden bed, on the inside obviously, to stop erosion out of the garden bed when you're on an incline or a hill like I am here. And on top of that, it also helps suppress grass, which is under the garden bed if you don't dig it all out, from going up through your garden bed. It won't stop the bulbs that we do have throughout our grass, but that's not a huge issue. I'm not sure whether that's going to be a big improvement because I added a big layer of leaves and there's some weeds and stuff in there that I had kind of just sitting ready to go on a mulch pile. And as a result, it's possible we'll get some weeds growing in this through that mulch, but I've put quite a thick layer of mulch across the bottom of this garden bed. And then what I did to hopefully help that along a little bit and also help aerate the soil a bit is I actually put a layer of charcoal from our fire, so the unburnt kind of coals from our fire, a little bit of wood ash, and then on top of that, because the charcoal itself has a tendency to suck the nitrogen out of everything around it, I actually added some kind of fertilizer pellets in on top of that. And then what we did is we added a whole heap of kind of thick branches and twigs, care of my little Makita electric 18-volt chainsaw, which I was able to chop up into kind of decent sized pieces. We've chucked them across the bottom, or I should say on top of the leaves, but under the soil. And then I've added my soil on top, and at that point, probably half of the garden bed was full, and this is a 370 mil or 37 centimeter, probably 1.5 foot maybe, as far as depth for the garden bed. So half of that is filled with that mixture, and then we've got our soil on top, and finally we've got mulch. And because this is really nice soil, but one of the issues I've had is the compaction factor. It's super, super rich, but I think it doesn't have enough aeration, and so I've actually added vermiculite to it, which there's some kind of little bits of vermiculite you can see here from where I've mixed it in, and that's to give it a little bit more airiness. But I think the vermiculite, that actually helps hold moisture, I think, if I've got this right, and the perlite gives you the breathability but gives better drainage. And so you'd have kind of the two options of which way you want to push your soil with your additives. And I'm hoping that what we'll end up with here with this whole plan is, in the long term, we'll end up with the bottom of this garden bed featuring a really nice kind of loamy, quite well breathing but also very well moisture holding basis. And part of that is because obviously those bigger twigs and logs, and they're not really logs, but you know, they're pretty decent sized. Hopefully they will break down and provide a really good basis as the roots get a little bit deeper. And then we've got our good soil on top, which is a little bit airier than the pure soil that I get as part of a delivery. Because yeah, I do think I need to be a little bit more active in getting that just perfect for vegetables. Because with certain vegetables, like with my carrots and even my radishes, I feel like they're having a little bit of trouble getting their roots down, and it does compact a little bit more than I'd like as time goes on, and that's not ideal. We want it to be a little airier. So yeah, I'm not actually sure if this is going to work at all. I'm not sure if putting all of that mulch in the bottom is going to create issues, whether the charcoal in with it is going to create issues, because it's not primed biochar, it is just base charcoal. And I've tried to kind of skip the making of biochar process on this one by adding the fertilizer in on top and hoping that when the charcoal sucks the nitrogen out from around it, it'll just take it straight out of that fertilizer and it'll store it. And when the plants are ready to go, hopefully at that stage, it'll all be kind of doing its thing, I guess you'd say. So anyway, I guess mainly speaking, this is a fairly inexpensive exercise because it's a soil delivery, so it's the cheapest way to get soil. The only thing that really costs money in this situation is that vermiculite, which for a big 10-litre bag maybe, I reckon that was 20-25 bucks. It's not cheap. So, but I've only used half a bag, and I guess as well the mulch, that's a little bit of money, but you don't use much of a bag to cover a bed like this. And hopefully this bed will be good to go in a couple of weeks, which is when spring will be hitting. So yeah, and I've got a couple more beds to put in, and obviously I'm trying to get my soil to go as far as it possibly can, but we're definitely experimenting here to see what can work, because I'm not in a situation where I've got a compost heap which is years old and is giving me really good contents as far as additives to my soil, and so I'm having to kind of play around and see what we can achieve just with what's on hand, and this is very much an attempt to do that. I have made a couple of mistakes, I would say, in putting this garden bed in. Not so much in the placement, but I'm going to do a video on covering all the issues and the problems I think I've made in putting my garden beds in this location, that hopefully I can explain to you, and if you are in the similar situation, you won't make my mistakes. But that video will be up soon.